Hello there. Good morning, Floralpreneurs. It is I, Alison Ellis, here of realflowerbusiness.com, coming at you for a Tuesday Q&A. Only it's a very special Tuesday Q&A because I have Françoise Weeks here with me. So I'm about to bring Françoise in a minute. She needs no introduction, but it would be crazy to not introduce her. So I will. As I always say to Françoise, she is a world famous florist, right? Even though she thinks of herself as just being a normal person like the rest of us. She is an innovator. She is amazing. She's super talented. She, like I said, needs no introduction, but deserves a round of applause because she really has taken floral couture to us, right? Made it more mainstream. Something that we can not only now know how to make, but how to sell and how to get people interested in incorporating this into wearables, into their either events or family moments, right? Small weddings happening now, never been a better chance to do something really amazing and decked out for the couple. So I am really excited to bring Françoise in today. You have probably seen her on like every single podcast or, any place where really awesome florists are featured. Today, we're going to do something slightly different and talk about not just about her process. If you have questions, you can feel free, of course, but about how she moves through fear, how she reinvents herself and tries new things. Because that is, to me, if I had to really distill what is the most awesome about Françoise, it would be that she experiments and tries new things. And through that, she creates new paths. So, and a lot of us are walking down the paths that she's created. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on live and we're going to talk about business, pushing through the stuff that we don't want to do. Hi, Françoise.
Hello. How are you? Hello, everybody.
I am great. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so happy to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Please. Yeah. You're so honored to be on my show. I am the honored one. So Françoise and I have known each other for years now. And one of the things that she's doing that I think is so amazing and you don't want to miss are her online lessons, you guys. She's teaching you all the floral couture that you would normally travel and go to a workshop and see her teach in person. She's teaching it up close and personal right on your screen. I've seen a lot of the tutorials, not all of them, but boy, oh boy, it is like this. Françoise, you guys did such a great job creating an intimate experience that is, it looks so professional and polished, but it also is clearly just you working. It's not like a staged moment of you pretending you're working. You're clearly actually creating what you're doing. And I know that video was not your first choice in terms of how you were going to move.
You know that better than anybody else.
I might have pushed you a little bit.
A little bit for 2 years.
But what you have created is so great, right? Like, I want to just really seriously endorse her online courses. Again, not waiting till the end to do this. Like, let's chat and then I'm going to sell you her stuff. Just really check them out. Go to FrancoiseWeeks.com and you're going to find her amazing repertoire of courses. And seriously, you can learn how to do the stuff that you go, how does she do that? Way up close and personal. Now, I've seen you teach live multiple times. I think I've seen you at least 5 times. I think I've spent at least 5 workshop days with you. And it's always inspiring. Always, I'm learning another level of detail. But what I find with your online stuff, your online lessons, is I can see exactly what your hands are doing and exactly how you're moving things and manipulating things even better than I can in person. So it's not like second best to seeing you live. It really is another angle. So anyway, I just want to compliment you on doing those so well. And I want to ask.
Fabulous videographers. I had 2 videographers. We had like 3 different cameras in the studio, and they just did a fabulous job. they were, yeah, they're fantastic. We've done 3 sets of videos now, and they're so easy to work with, and they make you comfortable. And they knew I was uncomfortable doing videos, so they kind of figured out how to deal with that.
Well, but you come across as you in the videos. You know, you don't come across as someone who's stiff or unsure. And I know that public speaking wasn't your first inclination. And that kind of brings us right to our topic today. We want to talk about the reinvention, pushing through fear, and really what it means to try new things in your business. I do that a lot, and I like to pat myself on the back that I'm always, but you do it in a way that I think is especially inspiring. So how did you first start speaking publicly when you really didn't want to have to do that, when you would have preferred to not?
Well, actually, it was exactly 10 years ago here in Portland at the flower market. They used to do an annual design show, and each wholesaler would invite a designer, usually from out of town. And one of the smaller wholesaler was a local wholesaler, Billingsley. They approached me and they asked me if I could be their designer. Okay. And I asked, well, what would this entail? And he said, oh, well, it's pretty easy. He said, all the designers are at the wholesaler who's sponsoring them, and you'll make some designs ahead of time, and people will come through, and then you'll talk a little bit. You'll answer their questions. And I said, oh, I can do that. And then 2 months before the design show, he said to me, well, we all had a meeting this weekend, and we decided to change the format. And at the flower market in Portland, there is this huge, long building that houses all the wholesalers. And there is a dock. And he said, well, we've decided to have the 4 designers on the dock, and we'll put a big tent down, and all the visitors will be watching you all from under the tent. And I said, well, how many people usually come? And he said, well, around 400. And I thought I was going to die.
Right. That's a lot of people.
And he must have seen the fear in my eyes and on my face. And he said, well, you still want to do it? And I said, well, for the business, I'll do anything. And so I didn't ask anybody really how to go about it. I decided to do it the way I thought might work best. I knew there were 3 other designers, and I knew that they would interview each designer for 3 minutes at a time, which meant that you had 9 minutes to make something. And I can't make anything in 9 minutes.
No, that's not your style.
And I think we had to do about 20 different designs, 10 for the morning and 10 for the afternoon. And so I made all of them in my studio for about 95%, and then had a little bucket with the extra flowers, labeled everything, so everything was really organized. One of the people who worked at Billingsley came and picked me up in their big van, and she helped me, and I was super nervous about the whole thing. I was the only woman. I was the only local one, and I was the only one who had never done this before.
Mm-hmm. And no pressure.
And I was just pacing around, and one of the designers, I think he was from Chicago, came up to me and he said, "Hey, I hear that you're really nervous." And I said,
"Oh, that's great.
Oh, really nice, And I go, "Yes, I am." I said, "Aren't you?" And he goes, "Oh, honey," he said, "it's just so easy." And I thought, well, geez, okay, let's move away from here. And then when it was time, they called us on, and to my surprise, when the moderator asked me questions, I didn't stutter. I didn't turn red. I thought I was going to have all these symptoms that I usually have when I'm super nervous.
Yeah.
English is not my native tongue, so I'm always afraid that I'm going to talk pidgin English when I'm so nervous. I didn't do that. And it went way better than I had anticipated. And the next day I talked to my sister about it, and she said, well, of course you did fine. She said, because you spoke with your flower voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like the nicest thing she has ever said to me. And she said, you knew what you were talking about. And she said, and so what if people would have asked you questions that you didn't know the answer to? You could have said, well, I'll look it up and I'll get back to you.
Right.
So that was my first experience. I've had many more experiences since then. Public speaking at garden clubs, at Art in Bloom, and some other events at other wholesalers. I'm always really, I'm always nervous about it, but I'm always super, super prepared. I make the designs ahead of time, basically explain the mechanics, and then show the finished product. And it's a system that works for me. So when people invite me to come, I always mention that in the first email. I don't demo on site because my work is too detailed and too time consuming to make. And so I think that the bottom line is that when we are asked to do things that scares us, or we're not familiar with, or we don't think we can do, trying to come up with a system that would work for us, and it doesn't matter that it's different from what everybody else does. Then you can fine tune it, down the road. But that was a biggie for me to learn to do that. And because I kind of went down that path with the teaching, and that there were, in the beginning when I was traveling to teach, I taught more at studios or at flower shops. Yeah. And then so many people started to teach, and the competition became pretty huge.
Yeah.
And so I felt like if I could try to figure out to teach in different settings, that maybe the competition wouldn't be as fierce as it was. And so and garden clubs and Art in Bloom, those are two examples. And the nice thing about working for, in those situations is that they're big organizations, and then the chances of being referred to a different city, to a garden club in a different city is definitely there. And so now most of the teaching that I do is in those settings, and it's really quite wonderful.
Yeah. Well, because what you teach is not only beautiful, but it really is thought-provoking. Like, that's when anytime I have taken a workshop with you, I really leave with a sense of more creativity and more like, oh, I know how to figure this out, or I know how to do this. As a result of, and I know you've heard this before, but you have almost a childlike way of viewing plant material. You see things with a new eye, and maybe that's more what I mean than childlike. You have a more fresh eye when you look at things. And that is something that no one could teach you to do. And you can't necessarily teach others to do, although somehow you manage to. I think that you somehow manage to teach us how to look at things differently, how to rip that leaf in half so it's not as thick, or how to, cut something, just chop it right off and just use the part you want. You give us permission to do those sorts of things.
Yeah. I just think that by looking at botanical materials through different eyes, and be curious. I mean, the curiosity is always a huge element.
Mm.
I wonder what would happen if,
Right.
or be, as an example, also, if you, we all know that orchids last a long time, but you only can have orchids for that long until, they're not all that great anymore. But so one time I was working on a project, and I wanted to use orchids, and I didn't have quite enough blossoms, but I had some blossoms where the petals didn't look all that great anymore. But the center, which is the most fabulous texture, it's superb, still looked good. So then just taking, the petals off and see, oh, well, I can still use that. Actually, a person who was really, really has influenced me incredibly over the years, especially in the beginning when I started to deconstruct flowers. Her name is Kathy Klein. And I followed her on Facebook and on Instagram for a long time. And what she does is she makes mandalas with deconstructed flowers. And they are just exquisite. And so from seeing those mandalas and how she basically had manipulated, she never uses or hardly ever uses whole flowers. She takes the petals, she uses the stems, she uses the seed pods or cuts seed pods in half, or whatever. And that was a huge, huge inspiration for me. And then curiosity, you add curiosity to that. Yes. And then you really discover lots of goodies.
So the curiosity is such an important piece of it, because so someone said, I have a Facebook group, and someone said in my Facebook group, you should really try things before you have to actually execute them for an event, right? Which I want to agree with. It would be great if we always had plenty of time to try things, right? But we tend to invent things on the fly a lot of times, when you have confidence, of course. And when you have confidence in your mechanics, it makes it easier to, pivot is the word of 2020. So let me come up with something different to figure out how to do something. So like, for example, one of your most famous students is Susan McCleary, of course. And Susan got an inquiry once, this was years ago, for a headpiece for a bride who was getting married in Vermont, where I live. And so Susan referred her to me. And she wanted just a headpiece. She didn't want bouquets. She didn't want centerpieces. She just wanted a headpiece. And then it was time to make the headpiece. And frankly, I had never really done it before other than in workshops with you, right? But what I knew is that I could figure it out. And even though I didn't have anything specific planned, I'll admit it, I had this order and I didn't know how I was going to do it. I found, so I think you would have been proud of me. I found this, it was like a fake, I don't know what I think it was supposed to be fake olive or something. It was bendable. It had wire in it. And I had it in my studio forever, right? And I looked at it and I went, I had my assistant here with me, and we're going, how are we going to do this? We're putting things on our heads. And I went, oh, I can cut this thing and this will be my base. And so I built everything from there. It was amazing. It was sturdy. She loved it. It was she wanted something wacky. It wasn't like those beautiful sort of like caplets that you would sometimes, it was way big dahlia. And I knew I could pull it off because I had the confidence from the mechanics, right? I knew how to use the glue. I knew even just that little trick you teach about how to cut the box so you keep the glue upright, so you're not dumping glue all over your work. And, those things give you the confidence where then you can experiment and get a little curious, get a little wild, and then invent something new and amazing. So that's the kind of tool that what you teach becomes like just part of how you move forward from now on, like you can't unlearn what you teach us. That's what I'm
Well, and I think the cool thing about mechanics, and mechanics always have been the base of all the workshops I teach. I think that once that you know certain concepts, then you can go in any directions. It's like sometimes people have said to me, well, you teach, let's say, botanical couture. I don't do couture, so it's of no value to me. And I always say, well, mechanics are always of value, because it's not, you wouldn't use a certain mechanic to do this. You can use that mechanic as a base,
right,
and then create something that's yours or that's completely different. But if you know how to use all these tools properly and how to manipulate them properly, I think that's really important.
It is.
And, yeah,
it's a survival skill, really.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and it has helped me out so many times. And I never ever know what I'm going to do. Whether it's for photo shoots or whatever, I have a concept, but that's the end of it. And I know what the mechanics are, but that's the end of it. And then to me, the beautiful plant material basically talks to me.
Yes.
And that's what I pick and choose. I know that there are a lot of designers who sketch and who know exactly what they're going to make. And I think
I've never been that kind of designer.
But I've never, number one, I can't draw, so that's a little bit of a problem. And I just don't have that picture in my head of what I want it to look like. And then it just evolves, whether it's for an earring, small earring, or a big headpiece. So everybody does things differently, but if you don't know exactly where you're going, don't panic, because something cool will turn out, and you always learn something from it.
That's right. So that piece, that experimenting and curiosity piece, is to me the most important thing of what you do. So I was just saying to you before we went live that I was listening to you with Robbie Honey on Instagram. I was listening to a replay this morning. Definitely go and listen to that, especially if you don't know Françoise's whole story. She's got a great journey and like how she got to floristry. And then, their interview sort of ends sort of on this note, talking about how she really did push herself. She's an introvert and pushed herself out into the world, right? Doing this extroverted, required, people looking at you stuff, right? And one of the lines I wrote down from your interview was exactly what you just said. You said, let the materials guide you. And I think that is something that people have lost in floristry, myself included, until I met you years ago now. But you are so worried about doing things right sometimes, or, is this proportioned, or does it have whatever? Is this okay? Is this the way it's supposed to be? And what you teach us is that there doesn't have to be a way it's supposed to be. It can just be what it becomes,
Right.
And I think that's really unbelievably valuable. Again, just going back to that headpiece that I made for the bride years ago. That was a complete experiment, right? I had to keep trying things and keep remade it to try to figure out how to make it work. And then just figure out how to put it in the cooler, how to just do that. How am I? Everything is a learning curve or an experiment to some degree.
Yeah. And that's what brings you to the next step. Otherwise, you keep on doing what you've always been doing.
And that's what a lot of shops do and have gotten stuck doing. I think that's what a lot of even wedding florists do. Like sometimes you just go, what do you like to use for greens? Because I just need a different green in my life. Like you just need a change. And the idea of being curious and not being afraid to try something and have it not work out, but you learn something, it's something we can't lose. All right. So I told you that I remembered the first time that I contacted you. And so in my mind's eye, the first time that I met you is at the Chapel Designer Conference in New York City. I don't know how many years ago now, 5, 6, 7, I don't know. Yeah. And no, maybe it was 5 years ago. And I was so excited to meet you, right? Because you're the famous Françoise Weeks. And you were doing the woodland gardens, and it was really beautiful. And I was not pleased with what I made at that workshop. I was like, I could do better than this. But I left, obviously, with skills that I translate to other things. But when I was listening to you and Robbie this morning, I remembered as you were talking about how you really started with the shoes, the floral shoes.
Yeah.
Was sort of where you first started doing the couture. I don't know. Do you consider that part of the couture? I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So I remember 9 years ago, I was pregnant and doing a bridal show. It was in November, so it wasn't quite 9 years ago. Almost 9 years ago this November, I was sitting down I was like, I'm going to make flower shoes. I don't know where I got this idea from, but I was like, I'm going to do something different. Every other year, I would show up I would go, what is something that everyone will like, right? All I would do, okay, so I need a white and green bouquet. I need a fall bouquet. And I would sort of go through what are all the things. And for some reason this year, I don't know, maybe it was because I was pregnant, but I was like, I don't care what people want. I'm going to make what I want. And so I decided I was going to make botanical shoes. And I actually also made a purse. Of course, the pictures I got were terrible of these things, but I had decided I was going to do this. So I went to the Google machine and I typed in, flower shoes or whatever. And I found this really cool thing that I would never have been able to do. I don't know how they did it. It was just flowers in the shape of shoes, and it was way beyond my skill set. And then I found your website, and you had all these shoes, and it was amazing. And they looked like real shoes. And so I sent you an email. I was like, there's no way this person's going to send me a message back. But I emailed you and I said, I want to make these shoes for a bridal show. And I'm wondering if you can share how, like, your mechanics or like what your base is. I'm sure I was like, please, can you tell me all of your secrets? I have never emailed anybody else, by the way, in my life asking them for help like that. And you wrote back, I believe, like within an hour or something, and told me that they're real shoes that you get from Goodwill, and then you cover them with the flowers. And I was like, well, isn't that just genius and so much easier than what I was going to have to try to figure out with like foam or something? So that was the first time I met you. So then you would be so proud of me. I sat in my kitchen, again, pregnant, inhaling all of this Oasis glue. I had never used glue before either. I'm always very afraid of glue. And it wasn't until I took a workshop with you that I learned how to not be so glue challenged. That's what I always called myself. I'm glue challenged. You really helped me figure out like how to do it. Let it get a little, put some out, let it dry just for a couple seconds. Then it was the little tips that went a long way. But that was the first time that that I saw who you were, where you're like a really nice, normal person who actually returns emails when people are like, can you tell me the secret to how you do this really cool thing? You could have been like, you can figure it out yourself, right? You were like, here's what I do. And then I was really proud of what I did. I made this purse that I loved, and I would never have done it if you hadn't emailed me back. So thanks for that.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for being so nice.
Well, I think that, when I started to teach in 2003, there were just evening classes here in the studio. And I am not kidding you. People literally told me that I was an idiot for doing that. And I said, why am I being an idiot? And they said, well, you give away all your secrets. And I went, what secrets? It's like so I started my business in 96, pre-websites, of course, social media. I bought a lot of books. A lot of the books were from European designers because I love the style. And none of those were how-to books. Right. So anything that struck my fancy, I had to figure out. And so to me, it's like sharing information is so nice, and then people do their own thing. It's all about giving people skills,
Yes.
and then they run with it.
That's right.
And so I think
it's like the difference between like give a man a fish or
right, exactly.
show a florist how to use a shoe. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, by the way, I got inspired for those shoes when I saw that book Fleur, where this guy created all these virtual shoes that are more than exquisite. And it took me a long time to figure out that I should buy shoes at Goodwill, because I talked to a bunch of people asking them if they could make shapes of shoes. Mm-hmm. And either they weren't interested or they were going to charge me a lot of money, which makes sense because it's very time consuming. And so my little joke is that at age 59, I bought my first high heel shoes and I never had to wear them. And every single time I think, how do people walk in these things? And it must hurt their feet and their calves and their back.
So glad to be a florist where you have to wear sensible shoes, you don't have a choice.
That's right.
No, it's true. Like the idea that things are secret is how a lot of floristry felt until recently.
Oh, absolutely.
And I also started my business before, the Google and the Facebook and all the things. Mm-hmm. And it was different. Like in a weird way, when I think back, I go, wow, it's so crazy that all I needed was a business card and I was in business. Now you need all these other things to be considered in business. And I'm very
I was actually mentioning to somebody yesterday, it would be so overwhelming to start a business now. Because it's like what you say, I had to cold call. Yeah. I worked in the basement, and to get a referral base, I cold called dozens and dozens of people in the industry. I thought it was going to kill me, but it didn't kill me. Mm-hmm. And I just learned all these things little by little, whether it was website and first it was Facebook, and then it was Twitter, and then it was Instagram. But to be literally bombarded with all of that when you start a business now, I think it would be incredibly overwhelming. But that's where people like you come in, right. Where you teach people the ins and outs of doing business, because as we like to say, most of us get into it because we love flowers. I knew nothing about business when I started. I knew nothing about marketing. I knew nothing about business. And it was a heck of a steep curve.
It's true. I knew a little bit about business. I had a small business minor. Uh-huh. And how old was I when I started my business? I was in my early 20s. So I knew everything, obviously. So I was totally confident that I knew what I was doing. But it's true, I was lucky because I knew enough of what I was doing. Yeah. And like you, I didn't cold call, but I cold walked in. I walked into places with an arrangement and I was like, hi, I'm doing this on Thursdays every week. If you want me to bring one of these to you every Thursday, and then I gave them the pitch of whatever it was. A lot of times it was 50% payment, 50% barter with your restaurant. And yes, I only went to the high-end great restaurants that I would never be able to afford otherwise. And so then, it became a way to have my brand represented with these higher end businesses and sort of get things going that way by having that association. But yeah, you have to be bold, whether you're calling or you're showing up. Nobody wants to walk through that door and get a no. But you got to be willing to get the no, to get a yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I was so glad when that phase was behind me of cold calling. That was, especially for an introvert, was very, very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is.
But, you do what you have to do if you want your business to survive, whether it was after 9/11 or with the crash of 2008 or now. with COVID. It's all about reinventing what we're doing, because what was working all of a sudden is not working anymore.
It's turned upside down. So that's a perfect segue. Like, let's talk about how you're reinventing with these videos. You're going to do Zoom classes too. And you also have prints of your work available now.
Yes, I do.
That's pretty exciting and awesome, because your stuff is so beautiful. I mean, it really does stop people in their tracks. It's definitely print worthy. So obviously now that you're not going to be traveling, your reinvention is going to be your online courses. Do you want to tell us anything about that?
So I actually, thanks to you, started to do online courses 2.5 years ago. I think that you probably encouraged me for at least 2 years.
You mean badger view? Do you mean badger view? Is that what you mean? No.
I can do this. So I was actually really relieved that I already had 2 online courses set up when COVID hit. We actually, Mark and I were supposed to do a third set of videos in April, which we didn't do, but we did it exactly a month ago. So we waited a couple of months. But I realized, even though financially a lot of designers, would be in a different spot, and that the sales might not be what I was hoping for, I felt like I had something out there that was an option for income. And so with the last video, I felt like it was a total gamble to do a third set of videos. And I decided to gamble, because one of the things that I've learned is that if you are afraid to do something and you don't do it, you have 0 chance to get results. But if you go out on a limb, you have 3 options. Either it will work well, or it will be status quo, or it won't work. Yeah. So I've definitely done things where I have fallen flat on my face. I think that perseverance, along with curiosity, are my 2 biggest what's the word? Those are the 2 most important things to pursue. Is curiosity and perseverance. Whether it's to overcome fear or to push through to try something new. So we decided to do the third video, and whereas the 2 previous ones, because Mark had lots and lots of other work, it took months and months to produce it because he didn't have any other work. Now he actually got them out in 2.5 weeks, which was amazing. But beyond that, I don't know when I'll be able to start traveling again. I know it's definitely out for this year, and traveling really was my main source of income. Right. So I have no idea if I can travel next year, because the way things are going is not very promising.
That's right.
So I realized that I needed to add on to something to that. And when I first started to hearing how Zoom classes became popular 3 months ago, I said, there is no way I'm ever going to do Zoom classes.
And then
with the videos, And then I realized that I actually did one last week. It was for somebody who had organized it, but it went a lot better than I had anticipated, and it made me realize that I really owed it to myself to pursue that. So actually this afternoon I'm getting together with my friend Gwen, and we're going to brainstorm how to go about it. And then it's actually a florist, Natasha Lisitsa, who is in San Francisco. She's this amazing designer. She and her husband do these incredible installations. She and I did a workshop together in her studio a few years ago. and we called it large and small or something, because she did these big things and I just did these little things. Anyways, we were on the phone a couple of months ago, and she, at the end of the phone call, she said to me, I was scrolling through your Instagram, and she said, have you ever thought about doing prints? And I said, no. And she said, well, you should. Okay.
Yeah.
Shall I not? So I talked to some people about it, and then to Teresa, who's my main photographer, and she is friends with a printer in Missoula, where she used to live. And so so Marcy is doing all the printing, and she's shipping. So if anybody is interested, there's information on my website, on my homepage about that.
I'm interested. I want to print. One thing that I don't want us to gloss over, because as I'm listening to you, it's striking me, just as it always does when I see something that you make, just how inspiring you really are to me. And I mean, like, we're friends. I don't need to like kiss her butt, but like, the truth is, she's so inspiring to me. And just listening to you, I'm actually feeling like slightly emotional to be honest with you, about how much you really do push yourself out of your comfort zone, because I am constantly encouraging people to do that, because I do believe, like you said, it's the only way. The only way forward is through things that are uncomfortable, through getting on video, even though you might not want to do it, or, getting on a plane and teaching. For me, it's easy to get in front of a video, but when I was invited to go and teach, I was like, oh, do I want to get on? I was like, yes, I do. Because I want, like you said, for my business, I want to reach more people. And so I have to go do that. So it takes practice in your mindset. Yeah. But the thing that is really striking me that I don't want to gloss over is that you didn't have to do this in your 30s, right? Like you didn't have to do this early and young, right? Like you said, you were 59 going in there to be like, I'm going to make some shoes. I'm going to make me some shoes out of flowers, right? Yeah. You didn't just say, well, I just do what I do and it's over for me. Yeah. I'm 59 now. Yeah. No, nothing new for me to learn, Yeah. And I think that is so important, even for the people who are 35 and think they know everything. Like in my Facebook group, I have some questions for coming in. And one of the questions is just, are you experienced? Like, how many years have you been working in floristry, or are you aspiring? And this question is so fascinating to see the answers, because sometimes it's like, I have been a florist for 3 years. I would say I'm experienced, which, by the way, is probably what I would have said when I was in business for 3 years. And then there are people who say, I've been a florist for 39 years, and I would say I'm still aspiring. And I just find it to be one of the most interesting, even though it's such a silly little question, and a lot of them are just like 2, 5, 25, as their answers. The ones who dive into how young they really are in business and how experienced they are versus how long they've been and how much more they have to learn, I think is interesting.
I have always been really fascinated, like I mentioned earlier, by designs in Europe. They really do things differently over there than here. Yeah. And so to me, and now, once that the websites came about and social media came about, where you have free range to see what people do, it's just so fascinating to see the creativity that's behind it all. And so we're back again to curiosity.
Yes.
Wow. How did they do that? And I'm not saying that most of what I see are things that I want to explore. It's like I am fascinated by large installations. It's just not something that I do. But it still really gets my curiosity going. And I think that everything that we have available at our fingertips now, with whether it's Pinterest or, Instagram is like the best place. it just, how can it ever stop to learn? How can your curiosity of wanting to try something ever stop? And this has been something with COVID, actually. For 6 weeks, I didn't even enter my studio except for watering the plants. I had zero creativity inside. But that has changed now. And because I have a lot more time, because I'm at home.
Right.
I used to travel about 20 times a year. I was gone a lot, but now that I'm at home, the local growers did not close at the flower market, and then I have a garden also. And being able to, if I see interesting pictures of hats or whatever, trying to figure out, I wonder how I could do this, and sometimes it doesn't work, and then how can I do this differently? So I have a really hard idea, a hard time understanding why people could think that there's nothing more to learn.
Right.
Or
that they do what they do and that's all they need.
Yeah.
When people say, oh, well, but I could never sell that. Well, nobody wants that where I am. It's so interesting how once you do it, you create that connection with people that they think, well, that's beautiful. They might, even if they don't order it, they see your talent, your skill, that you have tried something new when you show off a new mechanic. And it's just something that we should never, ever stop learning, right? And as people who sell courses, that's like a marketing line, right? Never stop learning. Buy our courses, right? Buy our courses. But it really is, even if you're just teaching yourself or using a free YouTube video, or like Françoise said, you're just seeing something and going, how can I do that? We cannot stop experimenting. And especially now when your business might feel like it needs to be reinvented, or that you don't have any orders to try something new, right?
Right.
Now is the time. And I was actually thinking that when I was in my garden, I planted these succulents. Yeah, hi, Françoise, because of you, right? Because I want to be able to make my bracelets for weddings without having to order. So they're really more sedum. They're more like little sedums that are out there. There's one that's called dunce cap. Have you ever seen this one?
No.
I'll send you a picture. It literally gets this cone dunce cap thing going on. I'll send you a picture. They don't do that until probably almost September here. We have a short growing season in Vermont, as you know. But I was looking at all the succulents and weeding them the other day, and I thought, I should just make something with these. Because I always come out and just pinch, they're right outside my studio, so I can just grab them in the dark when I'm making boutonnieres late on a Friday. And that is, I think, a direct trickle down from my experience with you, from you influencing me, right? Your influence on me, that I shouldn't just not design because somebody's not paying me for it, right? Just get out and do something. We had a couple of comments come in. I'm sorry, you guys, I ignored them, but they were not, this is going to sound insulting. They were not adding to the conversation or taking us deeper, but I want to just acknowledge them. Thank you guys for tuning in. So Deborah says you have to get uncomfortable, which is very true. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And the way you do that is by getting uncomfortable often. And Julie says, hi, Julie. She says, it's called voila. Now that is someone who has trained with you or studied with you, because that is it. When Françoise finishes something, it's and voila.
Oui.
I'm like, Viola, you say voila. And then Tiffany said that she can't watch the whole thing right now, but she loves hearing from both of us. And she says, can I watch it later? Yes, I always make things available in a replay for you, because I know everybody's very busy, even when you're not as busy as you thought you were going to be because your weddings got canceled. Before we wrap up, Françoise, I just want to really thank you so much for just being here, for being you, for being willing to do this, even though you would rather not. Because
it was actually pretty comfortable, I have to say that.
I must admit, I was surprised how fast you said yes. When I sent you, like, do you want to come on? I expected maybe for you to, like, maybe take a day to think about it. And you were just like an immediate yes. And if I may say, I was proud of you, because I really was.
I've come a long way.
You have come a long way, baby. So a couple things that I just took some notes from when you and I chatted the other day, when we did our little test. And just some of these things that, just some of the notes I wrote down were about how you push through your fear, about how you developed these extroverted skills, right? Like that's really what this is about, you guys. You can develop curiosity. You can develop that extroverted when you need to be skill. And you had said the question, what are you afraid of, right? That was one of the things I wrote down. What are you afraid of? Sometimes I even just name that. What's the worst thing that can happen? And then when you name it, you go, oh, that's not actually so bad. What's the worst thing that can happen? I wasted a tube of Oasis Float. Okay, well, life could be, right? Something could be worse. Curiosity and perseverance is another note that I took from you the other day. Keep those paired together, you guys. Curiosity and perseverance, because you can be curious and fail. So try again. Don't just let it, be that nevertheless she persisted. And the other thing was about the pressure, right, that we face sometimes when we are really focusing on being the sole breadwinner or raising a family with our floristry. And that's something that, you were saying that has been your situation where you teach all these classes and you travel around and you're the breadwinner, and which is, hello, I am woman, hear me roar. That's why you don't stop, right? Because this is not just your passion, but your livelihood. And I think that's worth just touching on.
Yeah, I've been the sole breadwinner for almost 20 years now, through 9/11, through 2008. And I had no option but to figure it out.
Right.
And I think, it's like what I mentioned to you, maybe if Ron would have had a great job and earned a good living, that I would not have felt so compelled to move forward and to push myself to do all these things that I thought myself incapable of doing. But because my business is my baby and I didn't want to lose my baby and I wanted it to thrive, I think that really is what pushed me to do hundreds of things that were completely outside my comfort zone and that I honestly didn't think I was capable of achieving. But it's like with everything else, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Maybe it never gets really easy, but it does get easier. So, and you just never, ever, ever give up. That's the bottom line. I'm 68 and I have zero intention of giving up anytime soon.
Thank goodness, because we need you. So you guys, like I said, I was watching Françoise's video this morning where, if you saw, I shared in our group the other day this beautiful scarf that she made. It's so inspiring. Watching you work is amazing. And while I cannot wait until I see you in real life again, I'm so glad that I'll be able to see you on video and on your Zoom lessons. And you're actually taking requests, right? You're taking requests for lessons if people have something they want to learn.
That's right. I actually posted something on Facebook and Instagram asking people anything in particular that you would like to learn during Zoom classes. So if you have any particular interest, so the Zoom classes are about an hour long. I demo what I did the other day. I made several pieces ahead of time, so they were finished. I explained mechanics, showed the finished pieces, explained a little more on that. And then at 40 minutes into it, we did Q&A, which actually ended up lasting 25 minutes over.
I was going to say, there's no way you only got 20 minutes.
But it totally didn't matter. So yeah.
Well, and it's great that they're slightly different. So like the Zoom is going to be more like a real in-person workshop, the way you do things. Right. But if you want to see literally from start to finish, get her online courses, because that's where it's, again, it's just to be able to see in detail the way you place, the way you move it around, the way you do the things you do, as they say. It's really, really inspiring. We have a couple more comments here. Robin says, thank you. Thanks for watching, Robin. Deborah says, thank you. Amazing advice for an introvert here. Yes, indeed. Hey, Lori.
Actually, I've discovered most of the florists are introverts.
We are. We hide in a little studio.
Yeah.
We don't want to go out front, right? You hire somebody to go out front. You're in the back, right?
Yes. Exactly.
My friend Lori's on too. She says, that's wonderful news. The scarf is so beautiful. And yeah, Lori, you would love to see how she makes that. And Deborah says, again, I would love to learn the scarf. Gorgeous. Yeah, I'm highly recommending the scarf tutorial. I highly recommend all of them though, frankly, because everything she does will translate to something else. The scarf tutorial will teach you how to do something else. You know what, the scarf picture, before I saw the behind the scenes, how you did it, made me even think for weddings where people want to do lays, or, you know, that, wow, that would be such a way cooler way.
Well, we actually last Friday, we did a photo shoot, an amazing photo shoot. And I had made 2 capes using the technique, and then decorated it with flowers, but so that you still could see the mechanic actually.
Yes.
And it turned out really beautiful. And so that was a good example how I'd done scarves and I'd done shawls, but I wanted to move forward. And so I was inspired by a picture, took some newspaper, designed a pattern out of newspaper, and went from there. So yeah, it's like once you know how to go about it, the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. When you have those basics, when you're curious, you're ready to persevere, you can do this thing. So thank you so much for joining me here. Honestly, I really like that welled up feeling of just feeling really, really glad that you're, not only that I know you, but that there are so many people who are going to get the most important pieces out of this, which is you got to do it even if you don't want to do it. You got to stand up there. If somebody throws you a curveball, you don't say, oh no.
Yeah.
400 people, no. You go, all right, I might want to bark, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And now it's like second nature to you. So, well, thank you so much for being here. You guys check out FrancoiseWeeks.com. Like I said, she needs no introduction. You've already been to her website. You already follow her on Instagram. I know you. So, but just make sure you check out these tutorials when you need that pump to get yourself over the next hump. You're going to reinvent. You're going to do something beautiful. You're going to do something gorgeous for Instagram. Like she's got your tips for you. Thank you again. And I'll talk to you
soon
offline. Yes.
Yeah. Okay,
bye, everybody. Keep doing beautiful work, and I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.